Greetings, students. This is again your instructor for the subject SC 16N or the Life and Works of Rizal, Kenneth Alvin Cinco. As you can see, we are having again a recorded discussion. This is for your benefit so that in the advent or in the time where we cannot meet, you can just download this or watch this online and review if you would like to review this lesson. Okay, so I will be discussing for this lesson our lesson 1.3, that is the 19th century Philippine economy and society. So last time we have discussed about the law pertaining the establishment of Rizal as a subject in the tertiary level. For this certain topic, we will now move on to the world where Rizal have lived in. We will try to discover what is the economic system on the time and how society was structured, so that we will have an idea on how did Rizal see his society and what kind of society did Rizal lived in. Okay? So, to better understand a man, Rizal, it is essential to look at the conditions of his society. Just like you students, right? You cannot say that you are not a person within your society. No? So this lesson is focused on the economic milieu of the Philippines in the 19th century. And we will also try to tackle what are the impacts or what is the impact of the social structure and the changes that it brought along society. So, there are many aspects when we talk about society. So, but we will start with the economic, meaning how was wealth distributed, what was the trade relations on that time, and then we will also try to look on society and how it structures the organization of society during Rizal's time. Okay, so for the learning outcomes, we will try to describe the changing conditions of 19th century Philippine economy. Please remember that we will be talking not of our present time, the economy of our present time, not because of that, but we will be talking about the 19th century Philippine economy in Rizal's time. And we will focus on how it changed, because Rizal lived in an economy, or Rizal lived in a society where there were changing conditions. And economy was one aspect of his world, his society, that was changing. And we will relate the conditions to the change also of the social structure. We will look into what we call the change in the social structure. When we talk about social structure, we are talking about how the people view people and in relation to their wealth. Okay? Like for example, in our current time, how do we structure our society? Who are those people that have more power? Who are the people who have less power? We can talk about that by looking at their wealth, their socioeconomic status, their standing in society, who are they, diba? So, this is what we call social structure. How society is structured, how individuals are treated, are viewed, are perceived in relation to their society, and what were the functions. And we will try to reflect on how these changes, no, in economy and in social structure affected Rizal. So, first of all, I would like to ask you, you can pause this video, you can reflect on this. How is a man not only a product of his own decisions, but also a product of his society? Ito yung tanong ko. Pwede ba na ang isang tao ay magdesisyon lang para sa kanyang sarili. Diba? Pwede ba yun? At pwede ba na ang isang tao, you have your understanding the self, pwede ba na ang isang tao ay maging siya lang, hindi niya naiisipin yung lipunang nakapalibot sa kanya. He will not anymore think about his society, all those things that surrounds him, the people that surrounds him. He will not anymore think about that. Is that possible? Posible ba yan? So kung posible ba o hindi, so paano ngayon naiimpluwensyahan ng kanyang kapaligiran ang isang tao? Be it in his identity formation, be it in the decisions that he make in his life, yung mga ganon, no? I-relate natin kay Rizal. So, paano kaya after this, no, we will also ask the same question. So, paano kaya sa tingin nyo sa identity ni Rizal bilang isang mestizo sanglay? We will be discussing this on the later part of the presentation. Paano kaya siya bilang isang mestizo sanglay nag-respond sa mga conditions na na-experience niya? Paano yung pagiging Indio niya, ilustrado, ay naka-impluwensya, no? So kung paano siya nag-respond sa mga kondisyon ng lipunan na kanyang naranasan. And by extension, I will ask you to reflect on that by yourselves also. If you're a student, how do you respond to your society? What do you think? No, these are my questions. I would like you to think about this while we are discussing, so that we will have this reflective learning. Okay? Let's start with describing the 19th century economic conditions of the Philippines and the changes. Okay? So, we will try to discuss what was the economy, how was the economy structured that time. So, ano ba yung nagpapabuhay sa ekonomiya ng Pilipinas noong 19th century under the banner of Spain. Okay, so isang pinaka-importanteng impormasyon na dapat nating matandaan noong panahon ni Rizal, that is the 19th century, merong pagbabago, no, sa Europe. There is a shift. Sabi nga, there is a significant shift in the economy. Merong isang napaka-relevant na pagbabago sa ekonomiya, no? Not just in Europe, but also sa Philippines. Makikita natin mamaya. The change in Spain's ruling dynasties from the Habsburgs to the Bourbons. So, merong pagbabago kasi ng political na pamumuno noon sa kanluran. Sa West, meron tayong tinatawag na the Habsburgs. Ito yung mga royal families na may connection kasi Habsburg sila Germany, ganon. So, there is a change from the dynasties na namumuno. Itong mga monarkiyang ito na Habsburgs ay napalitan ng mga Bourbons. So, dahil napalitan ang Habsburgs, itong Habsburg dynasties, itong Habsburg monarchies, yung mga pamilya ng mga Habsburgs na namumuno sa Europe noong panahong yon, dahil napalitan ng mga Bourbons, meron ding pagbabago that greatly affected the policies, no, that was implemented in the colonies like the Philippines. It's not just in the Philippines, but in the colonies that were under the Spanish colonial flag. So, nung pumasok yung mga Bourbons, when the Bourbons entered, there were new systems that was introduced. This is in the time of Rizal. No? Reforms were focused more on strengthening the profit potential of the colonies. Ano bang ibig sabihin nito? Kasi nung sa Habsburg pa lang, merong klase ng ekonomiya na kontento lamang yung mga Habsburgs na doon lamang magre-revolve yung economy. No? Yung tinatawag natin na Manila Galleon. Yung galleon trade, mamaya, i-discuss natin yan. Tapos, nagbago yung sistema, napunta sa papalago ng profit potential. Yung potential na pwedeng maibigay pa ng colonies sa Mother Spain. So, paano ito nagbago? Let's see. No? So, kasama sa mga, before we discuss Vargas, no, the Bourbons, meron silang mga reforma. So, kung yung mga Habsburgs, meron na silang sariling sistema, yung Bourbons, meron silang mga reforma sa ekonomiya, no? So, it consisted of political and economical legislation promulgated by the Spanish crown under various kings, no, sa house ng Bourbon. So, meron din, for example, the crown pursued state supremacy over the Catholic Church. So, it pushed economic reforms and placed power solely into the hands of civil officials. So, isa sa mga pagbabago dito ay yung pagpapalakas ng state power kaysa sa pagpapanatili ng power sa Catholic Church. Kasi nung panahon yon, napaka-impluwensya ng Catholic Church. Ngunit sa pagdating ng mga Bourbons, yung kapangyarihan ay binabago, no? At ibinibigay sa civil officials. Ito na yung sa mga Spanish na mga opisyal, no? So, merong resultang mahalaga yung pagre-restructure. So, marami yung nangyari at isa na dito ay ang pagtatalaga kay Jose Vasco y Vargas bilang bagong gobernador general sa Pilipinas. So, who is Jose Vasco y Vargas? He was the first governor general who served under the Bourbons. So, ito na, pagbabago na ng ekonomiya, no? He arrived in the Philippines in 1778. By that time, yung galleon trade, ito yung luma. Yung galleon trade, yung tinatawag nating kalakalang galyon sa elementary days kung may natatandaan kayo sa inyong Philippine history. So, yung kalakalang galyon, by that time, was losing its strength as a primary economic institution of the Philippines. So, ano ba yung ginagawa ng kalakalang galyon? So, basically, yung kalakalang galyon ay isang tawag nito, ang galleon kasi ay isang ship. Ito ay isang kalakalan. Ang galleon trade o ang kalakalang galyon ay isang klase ng kalakalan kung saan ang ginagamit ay yung malalaking barkong tinatawag na galleon. Kaya siya tinawag na galleon trade. So, anong ginagawa ng mga galyong ito? So, the Manila galleons, no, as they were famously called, no, the Manila galleons were Spanish trading ships, which for 2.5 centuries linked the Spanish Captaincy General of the Philippines with New Spain across the Pacific Ocean, making 1 or 2 round-trip voyages per year between the ports of Acapulco of Manila, which were both part of the New Spain. So, ibig sabihin, this is from Wikipedia, by the way, Manila galleons were big ships from the Spanish na meron silang rutang pumapalibot sa New Spain, sa Pacific Ocean. So, ibig sabihin, ito'y isang kalakalan kung saan yung Manila at saka yung Mexico at saka yung New Spain, meron silang pagpapalitan ng mga produkto. Basically, what are these products? Like luxury goods, mga spices, porcelain. So, in exchange for silver. So, itong kalakalang galyon ay lumilibot sa Pasipiko noong panahong yon. So, basically, this was trading route. Yun yung dating sistema ng ekonomiya. That was the old system of the economy. So, humina itong kalakalang galyon. Pagdating ng Bourbons, no, by dito na sa Pilipinas, yung pag-appoint na kay Jose Vasco y Vargas, no, marami ng mga Europeans yung nag-open ng opportunities for industrialization. So, nag-shift ngayon from trading ng mga goods into ports from Acapulco and Manila. So ngayon, gusto na ng Bourbon reforms, ito yung advokasya ng mga Bourbons na gusto na nilang mag-establish ng economic dominion sa colonies. Meaning, mas mapalakas pa talaga yung kanilang control sa ekonomiya ng mga kolonya nila. Katulad ng Mexico, katulad ng Pilipinas. So, paano yon? By industrializing the economies of the colonies. So, ngayon, hindi lang kalakalan, hindi lang pagpapalitan na ng produkto. Dapat may itatanim na yung mga colonies. Nagkakapitalize na yung bagong pamamahala ng mga Bourbons sa kanilang mga kolonya by way of capitalizing on the agricultural potential. Ibig sabihin, yung agrikultura ng mga kolonya ay iimpluwensyahan na nila, pagkakakitaan na nila. Yung tinatawag nating industrialization and capitalization of agricultural potential. Yan na yun. So, itong pagbabagong ito from galleon trade to capitalizing on the colony's agricultural potential, itong pagbabagong to, this change pushed for an economic shift. So, towards an agricultural export-oriented Philippine economy. So, hindi na lamang ngayon pagkakalakal ng mga goods, no? Hindi na lamang spices, hindi na lamang silver, kundi meron na talagang pinoproduce yung kolonya para sa bansang Spain. So, para sa mananakop, no? Pero tandaan natin, sino ba ang magbebenepisyo sa pagbabagong ito? Hindi yung mga Indio, hindi yung mga taga Pilipinas, kundi ginagawa ito ng mga Bourbon, ginagawa ito nung pamamahala ng mga Bourbons para mas lumakas yung profit na makakamkam nila mula sa kanilang mga kolonya. Okay? So, ngayon, ano ba yung mga klase ng sistema na nailagay dito ng bagong ekonomiya? So, ito'y naging daan for this reorientation of the economy to go smoothly. Ito'y naging daan upang buksan yung Royal Philippine Company. So, si Governor General Basco, nag-establish siya or tumulong siya sa pag-establish ng Royal Philippine Company. So, anong ginagawa ng kumpanyang ito? This company was created so that agricultural projects would be financed and the establishment of new trade. So, ibig sabihin, kasi hindi pa naman noon systematic talaga, no? May sistema pero hindi pa ganun ka-systematic na makaka-raise ng profit, malalaking profit mula sa agricultural products dito sa Pilipinas. So pagdating ng Royal Philippine Company, nag-establish talaga sila, nagbigay talaga sila ng sistema, naglagay sila ng sistema kung saan makakapag profit sila pero kakapitalan muna nila yung mga agricultural projects, no? So, itong Royal Philippine Company was a chartered company founded in 1785 to establish a monopoly on the Spanish Philippines and all surrounding trade. It weakened in importance until it was dissolved in the 1830s. Its direct predecessor was the Kibuscon Company in the Caracas. So, ibig sabihin, yung kumbaga, winaraypan, panuyo, gudini nga kumpanya, is to establish a monopoly. When we say monopoly, it is a kind of economic setup where there are a single entity which controls the goods, the distribution of the goods. Meaning, example, so yung example niyan, yung tinatawag natin na tobacco monopoly. Ibig sabihin, yung nag-aari, nung nagmamay-ari ng produksyon ng tobacco ay hindi maraming mga Pinoy, kundi naka-centralize lang sa iisa. Pwedeng gobyerno, monopoly. Kaya tinawag na monopoly. So, ito yung ginawa ng Royal Philippine Company, yung finance ng agricultural projects at saka yung pag-establish ng bagong mga trade, new trade between the Philippines, Spain, Europe, and some Asian countries. No? So, however, these reforms did not fit well with some sectors. Merong mga problema, okay, na nangyari sa pag-establish ng new ng Royal Philippine Company. Particularly the Catholic Church, sabi ko nga kanina, 'di ba? The Catholic Church was losing, no, its grip because right now this is the Bourbons. From the Habsburgs to the Bourbons na. Yung reforma ng mga Bourbons, mas nag-weaken yung Catholic. So the Catholic Church was particularly against labor realignments while traders still cling to the galleon trade. Bakit? Kasi yung Catholic Church, marami silang mga lupa, no? Marami silang mga lupa, no? At saka yung tao nung shift ng economy, yung may mga tawag nito, yung may mga pera na kayang bumili ng lupa, no? Kaya nilang bumili ng lupa at sila na yung nagmamay-ari. So yung tao nagtratrabaho na para sa may-ari ng lupa, hindi na para lamang sa mga paring Katoliko. So yun ang nagbago, no? The Catholic Church was particularly against labor realignments. Yun yung tinatawag nating realignments. Yung pagbabago ng kung saan, kung sino yung nakakabenepisyo sa labor. So, while traders still cling to the galleon trade, meron pa rin namang pailan-ilan na nakikipagkalakal sa galleon trade. Pero hindi na yun yung talagang tinutumbok ng reforma ng mga Bourbons. So, issues of corruption and mismanagement also plague this Royal Philippine Company. So, ito yung mga problema na nangyari doon. Pero, tandaan natin na merong pagbabago at saka meron ding mga pagbabago sa social structure maya-maya. Bakit? Kasi merong labor realignments. Nakikita natin na yung mga dating may hawak ng kapangyarihan like the Catholic Church was weakening. Yung galleon trade nagwi-weaken, yung Catholic Church nagwi-weaken din kasi sa pagdating ng mga bagong sistemang ito. So maya-maya maintindihan na natin na okay, merong nagbago sa sistema, sa ekonomiya, kaya may magbabago din sa social structure. Pero wag mo ito na yung tinatawag nating pagbabago, no? Nonetheless, Basco continued with the reforms kahit na merong mga kumbaga sa waray may ngiwi yung Catholic Church, kahit na merong mga sinasabi yung Catholic Church, may mga reklamo. Nonetheless, Basco continued with the reforms that were put forth by the Bourbons. So to revitalize the internal trade para mas yumabong na naman, hindi lumabo. Para mas yumabong na naman yung kalakal sa loob ng bansa, the internal trade, he revoked the ban on Chinese traders. Kasi noong nang una, yung mga Chinese traders, napakarami nila at napaka-sisigasig na mga traders ng mga Chinese. Kaya, merong a certain form of discrimination itong mga Chinese noong panahong yon, no? The officials of or the Spanish government in the Philippines were banning the Chinese traders because they were richly trading. They were really they have a rich trade and connections, no? At matatandaan mo naman sa Philippine history, marami yung ating mga nakakakalakal natin, yung nakaka-trade natin with other countries. Like Japan, meron na tayo. Yung mga from Arabia, meron na nun. That was technically not Arabia yet. Middle East, meron na nun. No? So, kaya nga meron tayong Islam. But, we also have one of the most rich traders at napaka-influential traders natin ay yung Chinese. So, there was a ban. Ngayon, linif ni Basco, pagpasok ni Basco, linif niya yung ban against the Chinese. So, boosting na dito yung agricultural production started along with the lifting of the ban of the Chinese traders. So, binoost yung agricultural production, no? Nag-boost na yung agricultural production. So, ito'y nag-start ng development ng tinatawag na cash crop farms. So, yung cash crop farms ay yung mga sakahan na yung kanilang tinatanim ay yung mga produktong dapat magbibigay talaga ng cash o ng profit. Ito yung bagong focus na. So, some policies were more lenient so that Manila could slowly open to other markets, but there were also others that the tobacco monopoly was established to maximize this critical export product. So, in Luzon, we have this, what you call, the tobacco monopoly. So, in the Philippines, we were instructed as a colony to have these tobacco monopolies. Technically, dito sa Pilipinas, lalong-lalo na dun sa kung saan inilagay itong tobacco plantations, yung pang-export product natin ay yung tobacco. At tayo yung kumukontrol sa pagproproduce ng tobacco. Isa yun sa mga naging epekto, no, ng mga reforma sa ekonomiya. At anong naging mga implications nun? So, there were also disadvantages to having only one product na pinufokusan, no? Kasi intindihin naman natin na yung Spain talaga, yung policies nila is dapat na yung makakabenepisyo is not entirely, not 100% those that are from the colonies, but technically Spain herself must must benefit from it. So kahit na harmful sa ekonomiya, and in economics you will see that just producing one product is really harmful to the economy because wala kang variety, wala kang ibang produkto. So kahit walang ibang produkto, the tobacco monopoly was very lucrative for the Spanish. Lucrative meaning mapapagkakitaan nila ng maganda, mayabong talaga yung kita nila mula sa tobacco economy. So, however, subalit the Mexican War of Independence in 1810, which shook the Spanish Empire, eventually affected and caused the end of the galleon trade. So, panaka-naka yung pagkawala ng galleon trade until na nagkaroon itong Mexican War for their independence, for their own independence. Okay? So, it affected, no, the loss of the galleon trade. So, ito na, titingnan natin na mula nung pagkawala nung makamit ng Mexico ang kanilang freedom from the Spanish, there were also signs of the Philippines, no? The Philippines breaking away from the clutches of the Spanish colonization or the Spanish imperialism. So the colonies broke away from the colonizers. So ito na yung simula ng pagre-realize ng mga colonies na sinakop ng Spain, like in Mexico and the Philippines, na kailangang because of this, some very harmful systems na ilinalagay naman sa atin ng mananakop na hindi naman beneficial sa atin, beneficial lamang sa Spain, nare-realize natin unti-unti na dapat tayong kumalas from the colonizers. With the Philippine economy on the brink, na-revise yung mga policies nung nanalo yung Mexico at saka nung nawala na yung galleon trade. So, na-revise yung policies. The Royal Philippine Company was closed down, but these changes opened the Philippines to Manila, the Philippines, particularly Manila, which was the imperial capital, to world trade. So, na-open na liwat ang Manila. Manila was open to world trade. So, technically, we're not just trading with Spain, but our products were particularly beneficial for Spain kasi yung profit nandun sa kanila, nandun sa imperial government. But the closing down of the Royal Philippine Company meant that i-open na yung Manila sa world trade. Bakit? Nawala ng isang kolonya yung Spanya eh. So dapat mas malakas na trade, no? So it cost many. Ito na yung pagmi-mix ng races. I'm not saying that there were no mixture of races before, no, the closing of the Royal Philippine Company. I'm just saying that Manila was slowly opening entirely, no, to world trade. So nagkaroon ng maraming mga pagbabago sa Manila. Manila was becoming a more globalized city kung makikita natin, but not entirely because ano pa tayo noon. We are under Spanish influence pa. We are under Spanish government. So now, due to the crops being significant products of the economy, kasi 'di ba, nagbago na, naging cash crop farms na, hindi na yung galleon trade, nawala na yung kolonya ng Spain sa Mexico. So, napaka-significant na nung mga cash crop. Due to the cash crops being the significant products of the economy, land became an important major source of revenue. Dito na nagkaroon talaga nakita talaga yung potensyal ng lupa, no, bilang isang pinagkukunan ng pagkakakitaan. So major source of revenue. Land management and ownership became a massive concern. Ibig sabihin, ngayon mas pinagtuunan na ng pansin ang pamamahala ng lupa at yung pag-aangkin ng lupa. Before, pero nung Spanish time na, but before, there were the encomienda, yung libreng yung libreng pagbigay ng Imperial Spain sa mga Spanish officials nito ng lands dito sa Philippines, no? Kaya meron tayong mga hacienderos, those landlords, no? Pero nung panahon na realize na dapat palaguin yung pagproduce ng crops dito sa Pilipinas, naging concern na talaga yung pagmamanage at yung pag-aangkin ng lupa, no? It became a massive concern, no, because there was a shift into cash crops. So because of this, hacienderos took the opportunity while farmers felt the increasing pressure of the system. Bakit naging increasing pressure yung sistema? So problems regarding the pressure of the economy spawned land ownership issues. Merong mga issues dito ha, yung mga kontrata katulad ng pacto di retroventa, no, wherein small landowners who needed capital or money sell their land and guarantee to repurchase it at the same price created problems. Itong sistema ng pagsasangla ng lupa, yan yung pacto di retroventa. So basically, in the Spanish period, according to this presentation that I'm looking into, no, the mortgage system, pwede natin itong maihalantulad tulad sa mortgage system o yung pagsasangla. So it is equivalent to sangla, no? A landowner, imagine, ito yung sistema no na, a landowner who has loaned a peasant some money becomes this peasant's landlord, no? So example, kung ikaw ay isang landowner, so nangutang sa iyo ang isang peasant, no? Ikaw ang may ano mo, kasi sometimes hindi naman kayang bayaran, no, ng peasant. Yung gagawin ng tenant, yung gagawin nila is they will sell their services to you, no? But yung mas malala pa dito ay yung mga taong meron silang mga lupa. They have lands, no? Peasants that have lands, they have small lands. So what do? Sangla. Because they need money, they have to what? They have to sell their land. No, isasangla nila yung lupa, loan their land for money. But then, because while nagtatrabaho sila sa lupa, yung economy ay mas lumalawak, hindi sila anong tawag nito, hindi nila naka-cover yung dapat na i-cover, mas lalong nababaw sa utang. Hasta nga, the land na kanilang isinasaka, yun yung ibinabayad na lang nila doon sa sa tao kanilang inutangan. Okay? So, meron tayong mga ganitong sitwasyon dito sa atin, right? I know there are some situations like this in your vicinities, yung mga problema sa lupa. We still feel this, no? Mga prinda nga, diri mo na dito talaga nagsimula yon, yung tinatawag natin sa waray na prinda nga diri mo na makuha balik. Amo ito naging problema. So, the continuous increase in demand of the economy pushed renewals of the agreement. Renewals na liwat. No? In turn, plunged the farmers into greater debts. So, basically, when you plant a cash crop, it's not a guarantee that 100% you will get. No? Imagine, if you're a peasant and say, you loaned 100 pesos worth, 100 pesos sa una, ang laki-laki na noon, 100 pesos worth of a loan. Nag-loan ka mula sa mga wealthy people, especially those Spanish wealthy people. No? You loaned cash, and then you strived hard to what? To cultivate your land. Do you think you can produce the right amount? No? Agricultural land mo makaka-produce ng right amount para mabayaran mo yung utang mo? Ngayon nga, we have this problem sa ating farms, right? We have these problems in our we have these problems with our farmers. No? We have less land to cultivate. So, those plunge the farmers into greater debts. Itong sistemang ito ng pagbabago ng sistemang ito. And I would tell you that this also affected the family in land being forfeited and former owners being relegated into tenant farmers. So, in tawon, yung mga peasant na dati sila talaga yung nagko-cultivate ng lupa, o meron ding sila talaga yung may-ari ng lupa, kasi nabaon sa utang, yun, wala silang magawa kundi isell yung land doon sa kanilang pinagkautangan. So, the pressure and profitability of land made it prone to land grabbing and abuse. So, dito na nagsisimula yung mga abuso. So, kaya nagkaroon ng bagong klase ng tao. Ito, isa sa mga importanteng klase ng tao na tinatawag nating inquilinos or managers of the land. Now, ano yung kanilang ginagawa? They rented land and subleased to smaller farmers. No? So, marentayran tuna, they rented land, tapos isasublease nila sa smaller farmers. So, sige. Basically, they became the middlemen nung talagang may mga yung may lupa talaga and the farmers. So they rented land and they also subleased it to smaller farmers. So sige, they became parang closer to the farmers than the rich loaners. So all these factors contributed to the change in social stratification that affected 19th century Philippines. So, makikita natin na mamaya magkakaroon na ng pagbabago sa social structures kasi number one, na-lift na yung ban sa Chinese, which most of the Chinese, yung may mga pera, nagiging mga inquilinos. Katulad din nung pamilya ni Jose Rizal. They became inquilinos. That's why they also profited from this kind of economy. Okay? So, but they also suffered in this kind of economy because as we can see, when we talk about land and agricultural production, this is not without its problems. I discussed a while ago, diba? There were really problems. So, punta tayo sa changing social structure. So, yung pagbabago ng sistema ng ekonomiya, nag-apekto ng pagbabago ng social structures. So, mula sa pagbaba ng mga Chinese, wherein Rizal was also one, he was called, many writers call him a mestizo sanglay. No, mamaya makikita natin. So, there were a change in social structure. So, the Philippines was experiencing the impact now of a developing economy. Manila was open to the world trade and the like. So, society's dynamics are also changing. Nagbabago yung social stratification. Nagbabago ng mga renegotiations sa society. So, ganito na na-structura o yung social strata ng 19th century Philippines. So, yung nakikita nyo sa ating screen, ito yung mga yung pag-hierarchy ng mga tao at mga tawag sa mga tao na dito nakatira sa Pilipinas in accordance to their birth, no? In accordance this hierarchy, this organization really is in accordance to their birth, no? Kung anong klase ng birth mamaya i-discuss natin. So this was the social strata in 19th century Philippines. At the top, we see the Peninsular. So, when we talk about Peninsular, we will talk about that later. We'll describe it later. Second to that, we have the Insular, and we have the Mestizo, we have the Principalia, the Indio, we also have the Chino Infiel, and the Tonratas. Mamaya, titingnan natin kung ano ito. So, let's first talk about the Peninsular. So, these are people born from the Iberian Peninsula sa Spain. Yung mapa kasi ng Spain, if you will look it up sa Europe, makikita natin na yung mapa ng Spain in geography is called a peninsula. That's why they were called Peninsular, pure-blooded. No? Meaning, Spanish tatay, Spanish nanay, dapat doon na born or doon pinanganak sa Spain. So, how were they treated? How were this social stratum treated? Because they came from Spain, technically, they were peninsular, they were treated as high class. No? They were in the first classes of society. No, because basically, if we think about it, sino ba yung mga taga Spain talaga na talagang pinanganak doon sa Spain na pupunta dito sa Pilipinas? They were the high class Spanish officials, those in the higher rankings of society in Spain. Pagpunta nila dito, meron silang air of authority kasi syempre mananakop eh. Tapos yun, tinawag silang peninsular because they were born in the Iberian Peninsula. Tingnan nyo yung mapa nyo, makikita nyo doon yung peninsula ng Spain at saka Portugal. The next, we have the second level, we have what we call the Insular. No? These are people born on the Philippine Islands with pure blood. So technically, father and mother ay Spanish, but they were born in the Philippines. Insular, meaning islands. That's what you call insular or insulares in plural form. Spanish born on the Philippine Islands but with pure blood. So technically, mayroon ng makikita natin na mas bumababa yung position mo sa social strata, mas nandito ka sa yung treatment sa iyo, makikita natin kung mamaya. So, we have, after the insular, yung pure-blooded, we have what you call the mestizo or the mixed blood. So, we have two kinds of mestizo. We have the Spanish mestizo, a Spanish and a native parent. Okay. A Spanish man, a native woman, that could be a Spanish mestizo. No? Now, we also have the Chinese mestizo or mestizo sanglay. So, a native and a Chinese parent. That's where Rizal's ancestry can be traced back. The Chinese mestizo, native and the Chinese parent. No, so they were technically nakikita natin na malakas yung impluensya ng Chinese, no? Malakas yung dugo ng Chinese sa society ng Filipinos noong panahon ni Jose Rizal. So, Principalia also are descended from the pure-blooded Kadatuan class. What are these Kadatuan class? So, basically, before the Spaniards came, we already have our high-ranking people in the Philippines. And they became the Principalia. When the Spanish came, they were not anymore called just the Kadatuan, yung mga datus. They were not just called that, but they were called in the Spanish katawagan, which is the Principalia. So, masasabtan mo that a person is from a Kadatuan class wherein pure-blooded talaga na Pilipino ito pag they came from the class which was called the Principalia. Okay. And we also have the Indio or the pure-blooded native. When we talk about the Indio, this is the pure-blooded native, but technically, they were not in the position of power, no? When the Spanish was not yet here. So, the Indios were the lower ranks from the Kadatuan class, which were of nobility, yung sa Kadatuan class, yung sa Principalia. Yung Indio, yung common tao, no? Yung talagang tao sa Pilipinas. Indio is the first term of the common Filipino, no? So, but if you call somebody Indio right now, it should be an insult. Sometimes in the Philippines, at that time, the time of Rizal, when you were called an Indio, that was an insult. Okay? Baga kayo nasa, hey nigga, I am not supposed to utter that word, but I'm telling you, or I'm presenting an example of how insulting that word was. So when you're an ilustrado and you're being called, you're an Indio, that was an insult in your class. You're a Principalia, and some Insulares would tell you, hey Indio, come here. And then you know for yourself, you're a pure-blooded nobility Principalia from the Kadatuan class. You will be insulted. So, there was racial discrimination. That was how racial discrimination was executed on that time. So, Chino Infiel. We also have this non-Catholic pure-blooded Chinese. So, we know that there were a lot of Chinese traders that have chosen to reside in the Philippines at that time. So, we have these pure-blooded Chinese people, which were called Chino Infiel, or more famously, they were called Sangles. Sangles. Okay. And we have this offshoot na iniha nga class. This was a mix na, no? This is a brand called Tonratas, no? Mixed Spanish, Austronesian, Malayo-Polynesian, and Chinese ancestry. Yung hindi mo lang malaman, no, kung sino talaga, saan talaga. Spanish na, meron na siyang Austronesian blood, which was technically the Indio blood or the Principalia blood, and the Chinese ancestry. These were other writers, scholars also classify Rizal as one of the Tonratas, no? Because marami naman kasi yung ancestry ni Rizal not just with the Chinese and the Filipino, but mainly the Chinese and the Filipino. It can be if you in our discussion on the ancestry of Rizal, we will see that his ancestor was Domingo Lamco, was really the Chinese, and then naghalo-halo na. Most of the ilustrados, this picture that I'm showing you right now is a picture depicting the ilustrados of that time. So, who were the ilustrados? Ilustrados were the enlightened ones, the people from the Philippines who had the privilege to go to abroad and study, and were called ilustrados, or what you call the enlightened ones. So, this picture is a picture of Rizal, Marcelo del Pilar, Garciano Lopez Saina, or the most famous ilustrados of their time. Some of them have really mixed, really rich ancestry. Makes you think that the Philippines really, I don't know if we're fortunate or unfortunate, but I think it's just how history or how the world revolved around us. We have a lot of talents because we came from many people. No, that's a rich ancestry. Though we have dark times, we experience very dark times, especially the Spanish colonization. Now, I would emphasize that that the Chinese had an essential role in the Philippine economy. So what was the role? So especially the Chinese mestizos, where Rizal is sometimes classified to belong. Even during the pre-colonial times, alam na natin, the Chinese were indispensable because the close trade partnerships with the Philippines, no? Attempts were made by the Spanish colonial government to relegate and prevent the Chinese from taking part of the economy. So, nakita yon ng mga Spanish officials that the Chinese were very much part of the trade of from the pre-colonial times. But the Spanish grew jealous to that, were very much guarding themselves, no, from the eventual taking part or the eventual power that the Chinese could take from them, because well, they have the wealth, no, they have the wealth, negosyante kasi sila, because of the suspicion to the growing Chinese population, no. So the Spaniards imposed rigid policies for the Chinese. So anong mga policies na ito na rigid, no? Increasing their taxes, tapos policies of expulsion, yun, expulsion from society. There were discrimination, no, from the Chinese. There were discrimination from the Chinese. In fact, I think sometimes we have this discrimination with the Chinese, no, in our in the time of in the American period, when the Chinese were not still not yet educated, no. There were discriminations. So this came from our colonial mentality in the time of the Castilla or the Spaniards, because they were discriminated by the Castillas. So I would like to state that, however, the Chinese proved to be invaluable. No, up until now, we can see. Do you know any person, any important person in the Philippine economy who has Chinese ancestry? I know you can name a few. No, if not a few, many. So the Chinese proved to be invaluable to our Philippine economy. They were resilient. No, goods and the galleon trade were the fields of the Chinese Filipinos. So at that time, not just the galleon trade. The galleon trade, di ba? Doon sila nangangalakal ng porcelain from China, other wares na yung mga Chinese lamang yung, kasi ano ito sila masisinop, no? So gradually the Chinese were being integrated into the Spanish-run society. I theorize that this was also brought by the Bourbon reforms, where the Chinese now has, because they accumulated wealth, no, they entered into the play of the pacto de retroventa. That this is also one of the parts of Philippine history where the Chinese in their wise decision, they entered into that kind of economy, no, buying land, no, accumulating land, or being inquilinos, land managers. Eventually, intermarriage gave birth to Chinese mestizos. That's the ancestry of Rizal. So, they were a massive influence in the changing of 19th century Philippine economy. Many of the mestizos purchased lands, accumulated wealth, and spread their influence. So, in summary, what we discussed for this session is we analyzed how the change in the political leadership of Spain influenced the changes in Philippine economy, particularly the shift mula sa galleon trade to cash crop economy. We also examined how hacienderos took opportunity and how farmers have greatly drowned in debt. No? And after that, we tried to explain how the new class of people, or the inquilinos, rose to prominence, like because they were now the land managers. No, because land was now very much important in this part of the Philippine society. In Rizal's time, land became a very important resource because of that shift in economy. And we enumerated and described the different social classes in the 19th century Philippines. And of course, we emphasized how the Chinese rose to prominence into Spanish-run Philippine society. You know, a single note in the book of, I think it was in No Limitangere or in El Filibusterismo, I just check on that. The Chinese were very much, they were high class already in the consciousness of these books, yung No Limitangere and El Filibusterismo. They have a prominent part in the society already on that time na sinulat ni Rizal yung librong yon. Evidence to that, yung yan yung ebidensya nung pag-rise ng Chinese into prominence sa Spanish-run Philippine society. So, tingnan nyo yung resilience ng Chinese. So, kahit diniscriminate sila, kahit yun yung maraming mga pag-restricto sa kanila, nag-persevere sila. And up until now, we can still see their influence. So, just a quick reminder, one reference that I also were using a while ago while I was discussing was wikipedia.com. Don't worry, Wikipedia has their reliable sources if you know how to look into the sources that they post. Okay? So, basically, the textbooks that I used most influentially was from Juan Ibayas et al. And also our module. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you next session.